What's up out there, everybody? Happy New Year. It's the first weekend of 2026, and it's time to cruise the aisles like your next 48 hours of entertainment depended on it. Tonight's lineup, I think, has all the 90s cult nostalgia that you need. This list starts as pure comfort hangout cinema, then slowly turns into the kind of theatrical chaos that made the VHS era in the 90s feel like a treasure hunt. So let's take a trip back in time. Welcome back to The Movies Never Say Die. I hope you guys all had a great holiday season. If you are new here, I'm Anthony Digioia. This is the VHS Vault, and today we're talking 90s cult classics. I'm digging up the movies that just lived in that magical border between if you knew, you knew, and if you didn't, you sort of felt cinematically enlightened after you did. I think this episode is built like a perfect Friday night, neighborhood hangout vibes, after hours chaos, youth culture, soul searching, and the kind of controversial, unfiltered self-warp that kind of makes you stare at the TV and think, how the hell did this get made and why can't I look away? So grab your snacks and kick back. We're cracking open the VHS Vault. This movie delivers a full-blown neighborhood odyssey, one day, one block, a parade of characters, and the kind of small moments that become legendary when you're broke, bored, fed up, and dodging the ice cream man. Ice Cube is the friend with a permanent "Are you serious?" face, and Chris Tucker chimes in like a human air horn. It's Friday from 1995. Friday really is proof that you don't need car chases, a villain monologue, heavy violence, or a ticking bomb to make a movie insanely rewatchable. Sometimes all you need is a front porch, a day off, and two dudes trying to survive the neighborhood's daily parade of fresh nonsense. Here, Ice Cube is basically the everyman with an exhausted side eye, and Chris Tucker, Smokey, is that one friend who can turn a casual chill into an adventure you will either love or hate all before dinner, and together they do a great job of navigating through this comedy that's totally hilarious in all of the simplest ways. This movie was made on a shoestring with a reported production budget of just $3.5 million. It would open number 2 and pull in $6.6 million, and that momentum would carry Friday to a respectable $27.5 million domestically, and critics were favorable as well for the most part, with Karen James in her review for the New York Times calling it a slick, watchable movie. So for being mostly 90 nonstop minutes of people trash talking and dodging responsibility, it was a surprising earner. I think the cult classic status comes from the VHS replay factor that it had. The jokes were relentless. Most of them worked, only a few of them didn't, but I do think the secret sauce with this one is just the character carousel. I mean, everybody who wanders into the frame, from John Witherspoon to Tiny Lister down to smaller characters like Bernie Mac and Faison Love, are able to come in and drop a memorable moment or two. So the pace never sags, even when the plot is literally, let's just get through the day. And it really did make Friday into a movie that you watched with your friends, that you laughed at from start to finish. And the soundtrack is playlist ready. So it's pretty much the comedic cult blueprint. It's communal, you quote it at each other, and you rewatch it like comfort food.
Lord have mercy. Just give me 3.5 minutes. Maybe even 4.
Now, this was a high school flick for me. We rented it on a weekend. It delivered a total laugh fest, and it wasn't just the pop-off vodka and grape crush talking. Pop culture-wise, I don't think this movie just left behind fingerprints. I think it left behind indelible catchphrases. It turned Ice Cube into a comedic icon in ways that nobody saw coming, and once you've seen Chris Tucker in this, you'll never hear silence the same way again. Now, I want you guys to stick around. We're leaving the front porch philosophy hour, and we're going to step into the late night lane. Same one crazy day energy, but faster, louder, and packed with enough bad decisions to power a small city. So let's crank up the tempo to a more manic level. Here, 3 different versions of the same night collide in one tangled, caffeine-fueled sprint from LA to Vegas, where every decision ends up making the next 10 even worse. It's party hopping, drug deals, casino buffets, bad timing, and split-second panic, starring an all-star late 90s crew: Sarah Polley, Katie Holmes, Jay Moore, Timothy Oliphant, Scott Wolf, and a wildly committed William Fichtner. This is Go from 1999. Go is one of those late 90s hyperlink movies where you follow multiple characters through the same night from different angles, and every time the perspective switches, you realize you've been missing a whole other layer of chaos. And here, I think Doug Liman directs this story with precision. It's like a movie that drank 3 energy drinks and decided that linear storytelling was for simpletons. It's fast, it's funny, and super jittery, all in the best ways.
There's no body, there's no crime. We'll put her in the trunk. Stop! What? Stop it! What? It's a Miata!
You've got a killer ensemble of familiar faces here before they became fully familiar faces, such as Sarah Polley, Taye Diggs, Katie Holmes, Jay Moore, Timothy Oliphant, and others to really construct a supporting cast that I think shows up and instantly can make a scene pop. Now, tonally, this movie is a juggling act. One story is pure comedy panic, one story is edgy thriller territory, and another feels like a bad decision wearing a friendly smile. Yet the crazy part is Liman makes it all click together by the end without it ever feeling like homework, because the writing is slick, the performances are natural, and the progression really does keep you guessing. Now, financially, this is an interesting one. It debuted at number 6 with $4.7 million, would finish with $16.9 million domestically and $28.5 million globally. Now, is that good or bad? Well, it's hard to say, because like the story here, the budget for this one is a fun little pick-your-own-adventure as well. Depending on the source, estimates range from $6.5 to $20 million. So it was either a success or a flop. And as for critics, they were on board with Go. In her review, Janet Maslin said that it delivered a sardonic sense of adventure and lived up to the momentum of its title, and I completely agree with that. This movie really did deliver a story that kind of moved like the mechanics of a watch, with an ensemble cast that could connect to almost everybody during that age. Now, as for the cult classic status with Go, I definitely think it comes from the rewatch value and the structure. You don't just revisit this movie for the jokes, you revisit it to catch more of the connections and to just enjoy how crazy bonkers it gets while somehow staying weirdly grounded and somehow likable. My first memory of this movie was at the second run theater, catching it on a morning off in the middle of the week and having the entire theater to myself. And today it's a bit of a time capsule of late 90s nightlife energy and just the kind of clever, tangled storytelling that kind of became a whole mini genre for a while. Now, for this next one, we're going to catch our breath since we just sprinted through a maze of drugs and buffet prawns and chaos. This one does keep the same youthful vibe, but we're trading the party momentum for something a little bit more personal, but way more rebellious. Here, a shy high school kid finds his secret superpower: a microphone, a pirate radio signal, and the ability to say the stuff that everybody's thinking, but nobody is brave enough to say out loud. And what starts as an anonymous rebellion turns into a movement, all anchored by Christian Slater at peak cool as a defense mechanism energy. We're queuing up 1990s Pump Up the Volume. Pump Up the Volume is one of those movies that feels like it was broadcast straight out of a locked bedroom with the volume knob cranked way past reasonable, and as teenagers, we were listening. Christian Slater plays Mark, a shy, anxious high school kid who finds his real voice after dark when he becomes a pirate radio phantom and starts airing everybody's secret thoughts, frustrations, and late night existential dread. So really this movie is teen rebellion as a signal, not as a fist fight, and it still lands because the core idea is timeless. When you can't say it out loud in the hallway, you whisper it out into the void and hope that somebody hears you. Now, this was far from a monster hit at the box office, but it would turn into the definition of a slow burn cult grower. It debuted at 15 and pulled in just $1.6 million. It would go on to gross $11.5 million. So, in other words, this was a decent theatrical performer, but it was much more the kind of movie that earned its stripes after the credits when it became the tape that you passed around to your friends to spread the good word. And critics, they were pleased with it as well. Stephen Holden in his review said it was one of the smarter and more likable teenage films in recent years. And I totally agree with that. This movie delivered smart young characters and it treated audiences like they had a brain, which is exactly why it's a cult classic, because it hits differently at different ages. As a kid, you feel the rebellion, you think it's cool. As a teen, you understand it and find appeal in the edginess. And as an adult, you can sit back, enjoy, and just appreciate how ahead of its time this whole movie was. The movie treats teenage feelings like they matter, and it turns talking into action sequences. Plus, Slater is perfect, selling that mix of confidence and insecurity that just makes the character feel that much more authentic.
I could be that anonymous nerd sitting across from you, and when you turn around, he just looks away.
Now, pop culture-wise, it definitely helped harness that pre-internet urge to broadcast your truths. Pirate radio rebellion, talk hard attitude, alt-rock soundtrack vibes, and the idea that a voice could build a community. I mean, even the home video legacy fits the legend perfectly. This was the rental we grabbed in our early teens and felt cool because we were watching. And to be honest, it still feels pretty cool to watch today. All right, now you guys are going to want to stick around. We're about to take a hard left turn right into the deep end. This next pick is the kind of movie that just kind of sat on the video shelf like a dare. No safety rails, no comfort blanket, just raw 90s reality, a group of young teens, a camera, and zero supervision. This movie follows a group of kids during their day in the city, drifting through parties and hangouts and apartments and bad decisions like it's just another weekend. Except with this movie, the vibe keeps getting darker the longer that you sit with it. It's raw, it's messy, and intentionally uncomfortable with a quasi-documentary edge to it that kind of makes you feel like you're watching something that wasn't supposed to be released. It's 1995's Kids, starring Chloe Sevgeny and Rosario Dawson in breakout roles. Kids is one of those movies that doesn't feel like it simply starts and winds up. It pretty much drops you out onto a New York sidewalk and says keep up. This plot revolves around a swarm of teenagers mingling through a summer day, and the tone is so raw and observational it can feel like you accidentally put on somebody's home videotapes. It's gritty, it's unsettling, and weirdly hypnotic because it plays like youth, just with the volume turned down and the consequences dialed way up. When it hit theaters, it was a tiny little indie that somehow turned into a lightning bolt. It opened with just $85,000 on a limited release, but it would finish with $7.4 million in the States. Global numbers would push that up to $20.4 million on just a reported $1.5 million budget. So it was a theatrical winner, and on the critical side, it was divisive to say the least. Some called it daring, some called it exploitative. Roger Ebert liked it, gave it 3.5 out of 4 stars, and Janet Maslin with the Times liked it as well, calling it a wake-up call to the modern world. Regardless, the polarizing critical reaction and its solid financial haul caused indie filmmakers at the time to sit up like prairie dogs to the scent of a small movie that left a big echo, and it absolutely echoed, partly because it sparked controversy immediately, including the MPAA slapping it with an NC-17 rating upon its release. We found it on cable and then would track it down at the video store for rewatches, and at the time it kind of felt like a movie that was talking directly to us. It was messy, it was a little bit raunchy and a bit grimy, but also oddly spirited, much like our youth was during that era as we raced into adulthood far before our time was due. This movie's cult classic status just comes from the fact that it's kind of a dare and a time capsule in the same VHS box. It's a movie that sticks around with you long after you watch it because it's a blunt snapshot really of youth culture, fear, edginess and recklessness in the mid-90s. When we all sat down for this movie, it was a lot darker than expected. It hit a lot harder than expected, and it was a genuine wake-up call cinema moment for many of us. Now, if you're still with me after that, much respect. I appreciate you. It's time to cleanse the palate with something that swings the pendulum back into big, loud, popcorn cult movie mode. This one is stylized, it's quotable, and it's ridiculous in all the cool ways. In this movie, two Irish brothers decide they've had enough of just sitting back and watching evil walk around unchecked, and they go full mission from above vigilante mode. And with an expanding body count, it's equal parts action, dark comedy, and pure late 90s poster on the wall cult energy, with Willem Dafoe showing up and turning every scene into a wild theatrical event. It's 1999's The Boondock Saints, starring Sean Patrick Flanery and Norman Reedus in full chaos mode. The Boondock Saints is one of those cult movies that feels like it was forged onto a DVD in a dorm room by a bunch of dudes who were pounding shots of Jaeger and slices of cold pizza and then passed it around like sacred text to anybody who wanted smart action, or at least action that sounded smart, while two brothers went full street rage mode. It's Catholic guilt, slow motion shootouts, and a whole lot of we're doing this for justice energy that somehow becomes weirdly earnest. And then Willem Dafoe shows up and basically turns the whole movie into a one-man fireworks display. I mean, every scene he's in feels like the film just chugged an espresso and started speaking in italics, and Dafoe, bless his heart, was perfect for this offbeat character. Alright, now technically this is a 2000s movie, but it did make the rounds on the festival circuit in late 99, so to me it does count as a 90s action flick. Regardless, financially, the story for this one is almost wilder than the movie itself. It got a very limited release, opening in just 5 theaters with a debut weekend of under $20,000, and it would go on to earn a jaw-dropping $30,000 on a $6 million budget. So yeah, in theaters it basically made $2 in a handshake. But here's the plot twist. The afterlife is where this movie became a monster. Some reports put total home market revenue around $50 million, which is the real reason this thing became a video store staff pick legend. It's the definition of a movie that didn't find its audience in a multiplex. It found them in the rental aisle through the Dude, Have You Seen This network, which at the time was the most powerful information distribution system known to mankind.
All we know is what we found out from the neighbors, and the general consensus is they're angels.
I remember buying this movie used at the video store right when I was getting into writing. I hadn't seen it yet, and when I watched it, it felt like scripture, and it became just a repeat watch staple in my early apartment DVD era, which meant I could barely afford lights, let alone cable, and The Boondock Saints was one of the few titles in my small collection. It got so many watch hours, and no matter how many times I took the ride, that cat scene was still disturbingly hilarious. And as for its pop culture imprint, I mean, this movie was a beast. It's quotable, it's poster worthy, and it's still popping up in anniversary screenings, and that really is cult movie immortality. Alright, now before we roll the end credits, if you've been loving the vibe of the VHS Vault, make sure you hop on over to my other series, Friday Night Rentals, right here on the channel, where I keep these shelves stocked with all kinds of 80s movie goodness, bigger hair, bigger synth soundtracks, bigger one-liners, and the kind of movies that feel like they were engineered to be watched with popcorn at 10:30 at night. You can find all those episodes and much more right here in the links. But for tonight, that's a wrap on this episode of the VHS Vault 90s Cult Classic Edition. We started in comfy hangout zone, cranked up the neon chaos, we got a little real, got a little reckless, and still somehow made it out to the other side with a full cart and a load of quotable cult energy from the 90s. Now I want to hear from you guys, which of these was your weekend staple. Drop your favorite scenes, your favorite movies from the decade, your memories from the video store, anything you guys got down in the comments. And if you dug the episode, hit like, subscribe, ring that bell, do all that stuff so you don't miss the next haul. I got more deep cuts, more rental staple classics, and more how did I not watch this sooner picks coming your way. So until the next time, keep the video store memories alive, keep the rewinder warm, and remember, movies never say die.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Flag of war. together become one.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?